So today's session will be on theory and case study writing approach. Very basic. Try to be brief, and as we practice more questions, we will have clearer idea. Okay. Before I begin, I want to ask you something. Like very basic things. Like it's not very technical. Can you tell me like what are like when you're preparing your, let's say, your theory part, those 13 questions, what is your approach?
Short notes for each topic.
Short notes for each topic. Okay.
Keywords and their definitions.
Acha.
Conceptual clarity.
Conceptual clarity for each keyword. Right. Okay. ठीक है. And so when you, let's say that you have conceptual clarity, you have made the short notes, and you have examples. Like all the boxes that are supposed to be ticked has been ticked or have been ticked. Now, the moment you do all these things and you try to write the answer, by the way, you have to finish the answer in 7 minutes, right? Do you find difficult to translate what you have written in your short notes, what you have made those notes of, like you have made examples, you have given arguments, whatever it is, conceptual clarity. Do you find difficult to translate that content into what the question has been asked by UPSC? ये issue होता है क्या? Particularly in case of ethics, this issue will face. Particularly in ethics case. The reason again is very simple. The reason is this. Here we treat ethics as a philosophical subject. Uska koi boundary nahi hai. It's not such. Ethics is a very scientific subject. If you know the parameters within which ethical boundary, like ethical values, virtues are bound, then you can understand the question. And then if you understand the question, then whatever short notes you have written, you will be able to translate that content into your writing part. Okay? So our job today will be to do primarily two things. Understand the types of questions, approaches to these type of questions, and case studies, so we will do it separately. Case studies, I want to take one case study and I'll tell you, because case study, the issue is this, that there is no one approach. Now, if people say, na, ki like, ye wala case study, isko hi I have to approach. No. Case study will have different approaches depending on the theme of the case study. This is again very important. Depending on the theme of the case study will have different approaches, but our main focus today will be these two types of questions, approaches to these types. Start kare? ठीक है. Okay. So first is we have to understand types of questions, and this is important when we are doing ethics paper, because until and unless we recognize types of questions, right? Until and unless we recognize types of questions, we will not be able to curate our content as per the types of questions that they have asked. If UPSC is framing a kind of question, there is a method to this madness. They are not framing a question arbitrarily, right? So first responsibility when you read a question is to understand in which bracket I will put that particular question. Clear? Now, if you see overall, like if you see the overall journey of UPSC, it has been over 10 years. UPSC's journey for like with regards to ethics, right? You will understand that you can bracket or you can bucket these questions, 13 questions, into these 3 parts. इसमें तो एक वाला तो आपको पता होगा. You know one. Definition based questions. The problem is with these two. Application and code based questions. The problem will be with definition and this application based, right? Now, if you see how UPSC has been evolving, the number of questions with regards to this one, is almost same. 3 questions they ask. ठीक है? Almost same. पहले they used to ask 2 questions, abhi they are asking 3 questions. Now can you tell me of this one and this, how is UPSC asking questions? Which bucket or type is UPSC favoring now? This. What is the reason? What is the rationale? If you see the journey, initial years, this was preferred. Now this is preferred.
So because application involves like critical thinking and internal engagement.
Yes. Excellent. That is one. That is a major one rather. Any other?
It is a platform to show your good writing attitude toward a particular.
Yes, that's true. Like you reflect your own attitude through these kind of questions.
Check your values.
Check your values also. Yes.
So remove rote learning and
Ha.
understanding.
The moment you are given application based questions, you cannot dive into rote learning. Rote learning से नहीं होगा. ये हो सकता है definition based में. इसमें नहीं होगा.
Problem solving attitude, like वही values check करनी.
This is what. So what Shalu is saying here, and if I'm correct, is application would mean that there is a problem and there has to be a solution. You understand one thing. When you are reading, when you are going through ethics paper, the one thing with regards to each and every question in ethics, barring 1 or 2, one thing will always be found, and this is very important. What is that? This. Now, in case studies, they categorically mention this, but in 13 theory-based questions, they might not mention this phrase, ethical issues. But one thing you have to understand, ethical issues are hidden in each and every question. Because this is an ethics paper, if ethical issue is not mentioned, there is no point. And hence ethical issue is mentioned. What you have to do is, you have to give a what? An ethical, क्या होगा? Problem, solution. Right? You have to give an ethical solution. Now, this is also not, again, like, yet this is very common thing. Like, after when you are doing your ethics paper, you will be so well versed with it. ये तो पता होगा that this dynamics will always work. Now, what is even more important with regards to an ethics paper and why application-based questions are preferred right now? Why? In order to approach, write, correctly formulate application-based question, invariably you have to know this question, definitions. If you don't know what is the meaning of, let's say, moral intuition, if you don't know the meaning of moral intuition, then anything with regards to application of moral intuition will not be known to you, because, or it will be very vague. You cannot apply here. So anything that has to be with regards to application, it has to be preceded by an understanding of that particular term. As we go through the question, you will understand. Right? Understood? So preference is given here. This is preferred. More questions are coming on application-based questions. Definition-based questions, the number is less, but you have to know this in order to do this. Code-based questions, so everybody know that 3 questions are coming, right? And it's like code-based questions are easier to approach because there are 3-4 approaches in code-based questions. Today we will discuss only one. Because this itself will take actually 2 classes, code-based questions. Okay? And we don't have the time. Okay? So basically, like, you have to understand. Basically, we have to understand that this application-based questions is the tricky part. इसको अच्छा से करते हैं. Shall we move on? बढ़िया. So we'll start with category 1, that is application-based question. Now this I cannot fathom why I cannot navigate. ठीक है. Visible है ना? This writing. ठीक. We'll come to this one. Okay. So application-based question. What application-based really means in ethics? It is not asking for the definition of a value, right? It is not asking. It is asking how the value, concept, or issue plays out in governance, public administration, or real-world context. So here, now this is very important. Here you have to understand this section. This section has to be very concrete. And ये वाला जो चीज है ना, every question will have it. Now, if you take up any paper, any year, any paper, if you don't have issue mentioned in the question, तो ethics में क्यों दे रहे हो? छोड़ दो. It has to be there. Concept, there will be certain concept also mentioned in this application-based question, where you have to understand that particular concept. Example, emotional intelligence. ठीक है, EI. Until and unless you know EI, you will not be able to solve. By the way, is EI a value or a concept? EI is a concept. Emotion is a value. Emotional intelligence is a concept in the sense it's a framework, rather. It's a framework to act in a certain way. It cannot be said a value. Okay? Chalo. And obviously a question can also have a value. Okay? So the question is not asking for a definition, but does that mean that you will not give definition? Obviously not. In the introduction, if the question demands a definition, you can give the definition of that particular, but primary, the focus will be on what? क्या होगा? किसमें होगा? This part plays out in governance, public administration, real world context. ठीक है? We have to focus in this. The core concept is the base, but the bulk of the marks come from showing you can connect it to realistic contemporary situation. The more you give example of this, right, this one, the more examples you give of this with argument, the better your marks go. So people, when they say na ki like my in ethics my marks is situated between 85-90, 90-95, तो उसमें क्या हो रहा है कि probably like to a degree they are giving irrelevant examples, or what they are doing is this, that their arguments are missing, realistic arguments are missing. And yesterday I told you कि in ethics arguments plus examples, these are very important. Okay? So the point what I'm trying to make here is this, that the more realistic contemporary situations, arguments and examples you give, your marks will shoot up. And if you see the difference between 140, people who are getting 140, 137 and 90, उनका paper देखिए. Don't see, like I will again say, don't see the beauty of the paper. See the meat of the paper, the content of the paper. You will be able to understand. Somebody has written very well, like उनका content बहुत अच्छा से she has presented, proper heading, good examples, this, but 1990 and UPSC checking is very objective. They know what they're looking for, and if you show them that look, you're looking for these things and I'm presenting you those things, you will get marks. And there is no two way about it. You will get marks. Okay? Let's see this question, application-based questions. The application of artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input for administrative rational decision making is a debatable issue. This what has come? This is UPSC question, by the way, right? Debatable issue, right? ठीक है? The application of artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input for administrative rational decision making is a debatable issue. Then, what is the question? Critically examine the statement from the ethical point of view. Right? Critically examine the statement from ethical point of view. तो बताइए कैसे इसका कैसे अप्रोच होगा? Anybody? I have not shown the answer. Try कीजिए. Okay. So like growing? नहीं बोलिए आराम से.
AI is getting used in multiple sectors and as subsectors, interconnected with other things. So उसकी relevance model is like present age is like digital age, so like connecting with that.
Okay. नहीं मुझे tell me the structure. Structure क्या होगा? The moment you tell me the structure, then we'll come to the content. First structure. अभिषेक रे बताओ. रुको आराम से पढ़ते हैं, ठीक है? Let's read the question. Let's understand the question. The application of artificial intelligence. ठीक है? What is the question talking about here? Application. Right? And we're talking about actually application-based question. The application of artificial intelligence as a dependable source of input for administrative rational decision making is debatable issue. What do you get the theme? मतलब क्या theme निकल कर आ रहा है इस question से? The moment you understand the theme, excellent flow बनेगा आंसर के.
Use of AI in administration.
Use of AI in administration.
Decision making.
हाँ. So here the theme is this, that AI is an entity, right? AI is an entity, and AI is being like administrative decision making. But as of now, there is no proper understanding whether it's good or bad, right? Now our answer will be such that based on the arguments that I will give, I will come to a conclusion whether it is good or bad.
सर AI को मतलब इस क्वेश्चन को मुझे इतना समझ में आ रहा है कि AI एक इनपुट मतलब AI एक कंसेप्ट है और उसमें ये डिपेंड करता है कि हम जो इनपुट डाल रहे हैं वो कैसा डाल रहे हैं, अगर सही डाल रहे हैं या गलत.
That is good, but that input is a different input. वो आप जो input बोल रहे हो ना, that is a different input. We'll talk in issue में वो आएंगे. Here AI itself is an input. AI, for example, in case of let's say tax evasion, right? Now, our tax department is using excessively AI to find कि कौन पैसा नहीं दे रहे, tax नहीं दे रहे, right? So that is that. So AI source of input that.
मतलब ये movement को हटा के वो AI को डालते हैं.
That is so here AI जो AI how does it? So here is your input. अब जो बोल रहे हो, you were saying about this. There is this black box. You know this black box concept? हाँ? अरे सब आप लोग ये AI यूज करते हो black box. You don't know black box concept? AI में.
जब सारा एक तो एयरप्लेन होता है.
अरे वो नहीं, वो that is a different. हाँ? Today homework, go and try to find out in AI is a main. अरे the thing is, if you are doing like if you are in the age of AI, right? And I'm telling you from all earnestness, if you are in the age of AI and you are in the age of AI, right? You have to know about things, developing things, right? Developing things in the sense कि not the application part of AI. Laptop खोलकर ChatGPT में we use ChatGPT. That is not AI. The science, philosophy, mechanics, engineering, सब engineers बैठे हैं यहाँ पर, right? Almost most engineers. There's only one doctor. हाँ.
ये ब्लैक बॉक्स जितना भी इंफॉर्मेशन ले रहा है को यूटिलाइज करके कुछ नया
Right. So basically, concept is very simple. Black box in the sense that what mechanism it's going when the input is given, and उसका जो rational output हो रहा है that you are talking about, right? Output हो रहा है, right? इस बीच में कुछ हो रहा है, right? Something is happening. Processing हो रहा है, like whatever, like permutation, combination, whatever it is happening. Till date, no concrete scientific understanding has been prescribed or has been there कि what is happening here. So this is a moral, क्या है? What is this in ethical term? Moral conundrum. Hazard तो मतलब खराबी है. Conundrum means that it can be bad, good, right? Apart moral hazard, so dilemma is also moral conundrum, moral dilemma. So in ethical term, it will be moral conundrum या dilemma, right? This is happening. Chal, will not go. So your output wala thing is that here AI is a source of input in the sense कि AI itself becoming replacing manpower and becoming a man force or a woman force, whatever it is.
सर इसका तो
हाँ.
एप्लीकेशन एआई में डिसीजन मेकिंग आर्गुमेंटेड टेबल
सिंपल है. स्टार्ट कैसे करेंगे वही है. So basically when in this kind of questions, now like listen to this very carefully, when this kind of questions, application based questions, when you have to give both side to it, and they have actually said critically examine. So our introduction will be talking about both the aspect. AI offers speed, consistency and data processing power of governance, for governance, but its ethicality in administration remains contested. This is the entire hullabaloo, or the entire issue is this part. Till date, we are yet to figure out the ethical use of AI, right? Chalo.
सर यहाँ
हाँ.
करंट इवेंट डाल सकते जैसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के एक मतलब एक प्लेस में वो एआई
Right. The case that we can give it in example, body में we can give, but that is a actually very good point. So like there was this AI manufactured case, ऐसा कुछ है, right? Right, we can give it in, but let's come to it. But do you remember what did I say if we are mentioning issues? If we are mentioning issues, it's an application-based question. If we are mentioning ethical issues, the for or against me, we are giving argument against. What did I say in one session? Negative connotation तो वो रहेगा नहीं. Forward, way forward. Recommendations. We will not lose opportunity. Again, these are the things we have to keep in mind. कि whenever we are giving whenever we are giving issues, challenges, problems, we will not lose an opportunity to give mitigating power या way forward. ठीक है? Okay, now let's come to the argument. Now, argument for is very simple. ठीक है? For example, minimize human prejudice, even manpower. ठीक है? Handles massive data sets swiftly, anticipates issues for proactive action. ठीक है? Don't write. हाँ.
कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन
वो नेगेटिव में आएगा ना, ये तो आर्गुमेंट्स फॉर है. ठीक है? फॉर एंड अगेंस्ट.
सर बट अगर वुमेन का प्रोजेक्ट रहेगा तो वो तो डिस्क्रिमिनेट करेंगे तो एआई से रिप्लेस करेंगे.
अच्छा, दैट कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. हाँ, वेरी गुड पॉइंट. Very good point. Non-bias selection or non-bias recommendation of in society. That kind of, like we can give many. But again, what is the point here? Point here is this examples. And did I tell you last time कि in ethics, what is important in the argument. So यहाँ पर you have to have sentences, proper sentences, right? So like language comes to play here to a degree. ठीक है? But again, example has to be given. ठीक है? Okay. So what are the arguments for AI being dependable source minimize human prejudice through data-driven objectivity. IT department using AI to find taxpayers who have not correctly reported their income. Right? Handles massive data set swiftly. Example, AI in PM Kisan scheme to know the beneficiaries. Right? Anticipates issues for proactive action. Predictive action mat likhna. Till date, we don't have predictive AI. We can understand the schema of things and take proactive decision. Anticipates issues for proactive action. Telangana's AI-based irrigation monitoring to reduce water wastage. Okay? So this is how your dimension should be. Argument example. और तैयारी यहीं पर करना है. ठीक है? That your argument and example can work in. Now, what are the issues? Whenever it comes to AI, the one issue that invariably and will be there and should be there, and as I've said yesterday, कि priority should be given. Okay, so when it comes to arguments against, the one thing that you have to mention is this phrase. Algorithmic bias, which I think you are talking about. Because algorithmic bias comes from the biasness that has been given through input, biased inputs. Now, there is a very famous podcast where it says that primarily with regards to AI, the software are built where? We have this built in Silicon Valley, right? California. The major development of such AI tools are happening over there. And most of the people who are working there are male, Caucasian, and youngsters. It's a very small demography. Just imagine the kind of input that they are giving to AI. Can they resemble the understanding of a tribal in Jharkhand? They can't. Or like some African tribe. They probably have not heard even in their life, right? So this is a factor, major factor. Algorithmic bias can produce societal iniquities, right? And this was highlighted by Niti Aayog in 2020. There was a report on AI. Please, like if possible, go and read. Read the executive summary. It was highlighted in 2020. Opacity in decision making. I was talking about the black box, right? This black box model. So we don't know what actually happens when the input is given and how it rationalizes and come to a conclusion. So we don't know. Obviously, then privacy infringement. You have heard about this Delhi Police facial recognition wala case? Huh? You have heard about it? Okay. Again, that is also an issue. And finally, because we are mentioning the issue, and even though they have not categorically asked, we will not lose an opportunity to mention this. And इसमें क्या mention करना है? Periodic human oversight. ठीक होगा? Periodic human oversight, that how that AI model is functioning. Ethical AI framework, right? This is very important. It's very in vogue. Bias audit. Have you heard about this bias audit? Audit though we have heard, right? Now bias audit is something that has come because of this particular issue. कहाँ गया? ये algorithmic bias.
The algorithm is such that it is having biasness in its approach.
The algorithmic bias in the sense, yes, it's designed in such a way that the biasness is there in approach, and for that, now this particular phenomenon has been started by many companies, right? And obviously, privacy safeguards. Here we can mention some Supreme Court cases also. Privacy में कौन सा केस आएगा? ठीक है? And in case of AI, ये वाला आप कोट ना लिख सकते हो. This is excellent quote. So it says AI will not replace humans, but those who use AI will replace those who don't. So I am coming to the question again. What is the question saying? Tell me whether is it okay to use AI as an input in administration? And giving the arguments, 3 arguments I have given here, 3 arguments I have given here, and a way forward. I tell that it's inevitably that we have to use AI, and that can be said by this quote: AI will not replace humans, but those who use AI will replace those who don't. It was said by Ginny Rometty, former CEO of IBM. The moment you frame the answer in this structure, with the dimensions written as this, with concerns and this quote, so like even like you can get.
सर अगर कैटेगोरिकली हमें वहाँ दिया नहीं है जो डिबेट के लिए वो कहता है आर्गुमेंट और इन नेगेटिव और इन फेवर, तो मैं कैसे डिसाइड करूँगा पहले मैं पॉजिटिव पॉइंट लिखूँ या नेगेटिव?
So that will determine by the theme of the question. ठीक है, like if the theme is ambiguous in nature, if they are asking, they are not sure, the question that will come with practice. The more you practice, more you read questions, you will understand a theme has emerged, and those theme is present in current affairs. It's been in discussion where the society is divided between the two. Very good question actually. Like here, to categorically they have said, you have to give arguments for and against. But where do I decide to follow this structure, right? That will be determined by the theme, and you will be वो हो जाएगा. With more questions you practice, ठीक है, you will be able to understand. For example, your question comes on application based question on surrogacy, ठीक है. Let's say, तो क्या, like how would be the approach? Can we just give negative points of surrogacy even though it has been banned? We can't. There are positive elements also. Probably positive elements will be lesser in number, right? अच्छा इंट्रो में oh हाँ, so like I would suggest कि give your issues later, because it matches with the recommendations. ठीक है, मतलब you give the issue and then इसके नीचे recommendations आ जाएंगे. ठीक है. अच्छा, another thing, when we are giving, and this is in ethics is very important, when we are mentioning the headings in ethics, that unlike your paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, the headings has to be very clear and should reflect the question. Until and unless your heading is proper, right, your content will not reflect the heading and your heading does not reflect the question, right? So your heading has to be very proper. It should be framed as per the demand of the question. And another thing, yesterday we talked about कि arguments against negative word will be there, algorithmic bias against, right? Opacity is what is the right? Transparency के opposite है. Privacy infringement या encroachment या violation, whatever it is. So these are all negative terms. ठीक है? So this तो like I think you can all manage ये वाला part. ठीक? हाँ बताइए. That will, so I would prefer कि in application based question, so I have included this quotation because actually this answers the question, right? But in application based question, it is better to end with real life application that has happened. It is challenging, मतलब example, right? It is challenging, but this is where your ethics preparation is. We know that AI governance is a very important theme. What will be our responsibility? 3-4 case studies we have to list it down. ठीक है, so we can incorporate these case studies as per our convenience. ठीक है, हाँ, तो conclusion only. So conclusion we can end with a case study कि this particular department of, for example, IT department. हाँ, even though there has been certain issues, the IT department has successfully used AI to get around 11,000 crore, and this is a news, Financial Express का news है. They got around 11,000 crore just because they have, like, initial year में, I think 23 or 24 में, I have to check the year, just using AI. Can you imagine? Now they will use it more often with more refinedness, right? And then the amount will surely would go up. Okay? So again, application means that you have to show, application based question, you have to show that in real life these things are happening. Clear? Chalo. We'll take another question. Now this question, I like this question because this is AI in This is AI in ethics. ठीक है? Now, first is read the question very carefully. ठीक है? Read the question carefully. It is not enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it is not enough to believe in it. One must act upon it. Quote. In the present context, the major weapons industries of the developed nations are adversely influencing continuation of a number of wars for their own self-interest all around the world. What are the ethical considerations of the powerful nations in today's international arena to stop continuation of ongoing conflicts? ठीक है? This is the question. Now, tell me something. So, what is the demand of the question? Simple. Yes.
वेपन इंडस्ट्री की वजह से जो एथिकल इशू मिलिट्री इंडस्ट्री
Perfect. Military industry. That is the theme. Excellent. Like I was actually trying to get that theme. आपने बता दिया. Brilliant. Yes. This basically this military or industrial government complex. ठीक है? This is a major issue. Now, what would people do is, this is the demand of the question. That you agree? ये वाला. This is the demand. कहाँ गया? E. This is the demand. You all agree, right? And most of the people, what they will do is this: they will start with this demand, ethical consideration बताना शुरू कर देंगे. ठीक है? But here, you see, read the context first. Read the context very carefully. It is not enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it, and it is not enough to believe in it. One must act upon it. In the present context, the major weapons industries of the developed nations are adversely influencing continuation of a number of wars for their own self-interest all around the world. If we are not addressing this part, then you cannot build ethical consideration. We have to mention the ethical issues of weapon industry. We have to mention this. And people will say that nahi, ethical consideration pehle batakar, then ethical issues. I told you yesterday, IBC, introduction, body, conclusion. That does not mean that it comes in that order. It means that your answer follows a logic of IBC. So here we have to first mention the issues. Ye concern hai, and then we can talk about the ethical consideration. Clear? Ethical consideration is a kind of a solution. To a degree, is a solution that what a powerful Western developed country who preaches around the world should do or take concrete action to prevent what? To prevent the adversities. Huh? Concerns followed by way forward. Ekdam simplistically, you are right. Simplistically, that is concern followed by a way forward. But consideration is not technically way forward. It's a responsibility. It's a responsibility of the developed country to take action. ठीक है? Consideration that we say ना कि are you considering this project? Then somebody says, yeah, I'm considering this project. I might do it. So here similarly, what are the ethical considerations that the Western countries have to take a positive action to reduce conflict? इसमें बाद में आते हैं. But this is a major chunk, no doubt. So 5 points will be given here. But we have to mention ethical issues. So what are the ethical issues? Again, in UPSC ethics paper, ethical issues has to have ethical terms, right? Arms export prioritize economic gain. This is not issue over human life, violating utilitarian ethics. Now, why utilitarian ethics? In utilitarian ethics, man itself is given primacy, right? Sustained war breaches just war. How many of you have heard this term just war?
Sorry?
Just war. ये कहाँ पर आपने सुने होंगे? Just war. This shows that you have not gone through PYQs. Huh? You have not gone through your PYQs.
War is justified or it's like
Yes, war is just right, absolutely. but इसका मतलब है you have not gone through your PYQs. Because if you had gone through your PYQs, then you would have come across this particular phrase, just war. सुने हो? अभी now question that should raise, अभी war तो is war. How can it be just? Have you raised this question कभी? Like, let's say this is the ये term आ रहा है, ठीक है? Just war. I'm just brainstorm this idea. If this term comes and they ask you to give pros and cons about it, like, or give a for and against argument. तो against तो आप दे दोगे because like war is war. But what will be for? Like, how can you defend war?
To preserve some values like sovereignty.
एक एक करके. हाँ हाँ.
Say like to preserve sovereignty of a nation. Yeah, if someone is breaching their territorial boundaries.
Okay, okay, that is true.
The causes क्या होते हैं?
Serving the national interest.
Serving national interest.
वही सेम सवाल
हाँ, अरे, you have heard about Article 5? That there will be a time when your preservation will be important, right? Where you have to self-preserve, right? Because you have to self-preserve, there you have the right to respond.
Like offense में हो रहा है, weakness में हो रहा है.
Right to respond. So just what the, and it's actually, it comes from the Latin term jus bellum, right? What this means? Jus is obviously just, justice, whatever it is. Bellum means war, conflict. ठीक है? Bellum is bellicose, bellum, conflict, war, whatever it is, right? So now coming back here, sustained war breaches just war principle means what? कि if you're continuing the war, even if you have that moral leeway that you're fighting the war for self-preservation, but sustaining that war will breach this just war. You will not even have that moral leeway that gives you, like just war जो आपको देते हैं वो भी नहीं बचेगा. Example would be Russia, Ukraine. Another example obviously Gaza. मतलब ये वाला देखो, this one you understood? हाँ हाँ.
Time for just war क्या है?
You are just
So your sustained war breaches. War breaches is that you are continuously making effort to dominate, to continue the war. Here preservation is not the motive. Here what is the motive? Here the motive is to gain territory, gain dominance. That is against just bellum के against में है.
like जो goal था वो cover हो गया, complete हो गया, but still हम continue
नहीं.
कर रहे हैं part of benefit.
हाँ.
Sir, if you talk about Russia, Ukraine war, Russia's concern is that Ukraine will join the NATO.
अच्छा नहीं ठीक.
But now
Okay.
the purpose is not to
So, अच्छा. So he is going to IR wala section. Okay, understood. What you are saying is this. What Ayush is saying is also a valid question, by the way. Right? What Ayush is saying ki that अरे क्या हो रहा है? Russia has this eternal existential crisis that if Ukraine joins NATO, and supposedly if they join NATO, it will be in their corridor. And because that is the case, it is in this existential crisis because Turkey में US का मिसाइल है, ठीक है? अभी पूरा इससे अभी Poland and this Sweden also joined. Finland and Sweden also joined. So it is, NATO is not only coming to my doorstep, but it is entering my house. That is true. Understood. Point taken. Right? And hence you are fighting war. Right? तो यहाँ पर तो obviously the debate will be कि ये self preservation का war हो रहा है. So like Ukrainians will say that भाई this is not self preservation. This is your knack for extending to the western front. सुन लो. Western front to get into the warm water territory. अब रशिया बोलेगा नहीं, no, that's not the case. Our issue is this self preservation. वो debate आएगा. That debate will be there. Right? But my question is how do you and this just bellum वाला जो concept है, the person who will be of a particular ideology in that particular state, who is defending, वो कभी ये just belum war, he will not even think of it. For example, us, will we ever think कि like if Pakistan is attacking, right, continuously, would we think in this manner कि अरे नहीं ठीक है, like we'll attack and we'll destroy something and then we are peaceful country, we are land of Buddha, right, we will not do anything. Obviously, for us, it will not be a just belum. It's a survival instinct and we will fight to the last. And hence, we will prolong the war. We'll prolong the war, right? That is in case with Russia also. That is in case with Israel also. Okay? So, the debate cannot be fought with you being a party to that just belum concept. Right? So, hence, I have not given example of India and Pakistan. Obviously, I can't give. तो देख कर ही मतलब 0 दे देते, 0 नहीं देंगे, 0.5. Here we can take a perspective. Better example would have been, you are right, Gaza and Israel war. That is again very good example. America, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. हाँ. कौन से?
अमेरिका, ईरान, ये जो अमेरिका ने ईरान को बॉम्बिंग की थी.
That is perception of having, so here na, that is concrete proof, but the thing is that is not war pehle, ठीक है, there is no war, that was not a war. Second is this Article 5, there is a huge debate on usage of Article 5. Until and unless Article 5 is introduced and like that self-preservation is established, just belum का concept आएगा नहीं. Same issue is happening, like in Israel, Gaza, it's actually taking a turn towards humanitarian crisis, right? Like if you have seen Holocaust, if you follow World War II, what happened in Holocaust? What happened in Holocaust? Huh? Gas chamber? No, gas chambers started in 1941, final solution mein. But Holocaust, I'll come. Holocaust, actually the process began in 1934, much before this gas chamber. It was not physical confinement. It was not physical torture. It was social, moral, your individual. In all levels, they were decimated. And how did they do that? They took away their identity, their will to exist. They did not have the will to exist. So there is a very famous philosopher. I don't know whether you have heard about this philosopher. He became a Nazi later. ठीक है? तो इसको quote मत करना. But I am telling you, there is a reason. बताओ. रुको एक मिनट ये बता देते हैं. Heidegger, Martin Heidegger, right? He's a German. He was a German. So initially he was very sympathetic to the Jewish concern. बहुत लिखता था. And when he used to write about this Jewish like confinement, so he said that the cruelty given or perpetuated to Jewish was not physical cruelty. It is that Hitler and his regime, the Third Reich, took away what? Now this is very important. Will to exist. So he was an existential philosopher. But later क्या हुआ? इतना खराब लिख रहा था, so इतना दबाव आया, so he became himself a Nazi. He started defending the Third Reich. No, he was a German. Martin Heidegger. He was a German. You have read in political science, क्या? Martin Heidegger. अच्छा. हाँ, Ayush, you were saying something.
If you look at Israel-Gaza issue, Israel is concerned that it is justified from.
It is just war for, like it's just war for them.
It's a matter of perspective.
So that is what I'm saying. Ki the moment you are being a party, you cannot say that this is not a just war.
सर ऐसा बोल सकते हैं कि जिस वार में ऑब्जेक्टिव रीजन ना हो उस वार को जस्टिफाई क्योंकि आप कोई रीजन मतलब एक सब्जेक्टिव रीजन के कारण आप हर वार को जस्टिफाई तो नहीं कर पाते तो उसकी एक तो रीजन.
So when two parties are engaged in a conflict, right, they themselves will never say that I am not fighting a just war. Everybody will say that I am fighting a just war. And hence, because I am fighting a just war, I have to do what? I have to prolong, sustain करना है मुझे. Sustained war efforts. Russia is trying to gain that 1 inch. You have heard about this term? In which war it was? अरे आप लोग वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री भी नहीं पढ़े हो? World War I. It was in World War I, no man's land. Right? So between the Allied and the Axis force, basically. What does this mean? No man's land? Basically, here are the trenches. Here are the trenches. Here are the German trenches. Here are the Allied forces trenches. Right? And nobody had the you can come here at your own peril, right? And entire World War I was fought for what? To push this boundary towards no man's land. Entire World War I was fought because of this. So sustained effort. In the morning, High Command says that today we'll breach. Today we will breach. There's a very famous poet, Wilfred Owen. If you have time, you can read his poetry. So he was writing poem when he was in trenches. So he says that there was a sustained effort to breach, jana hai, upar jana hai, to capture this no one land. And hence, your sustained war breaches will do what? Will take away this excuse if you have, ki he's fighting a just war. For example, 9/11 happened. What happened at 9/11? WTC came down, World Trade Center came down, and then what happened? Article 5 was infused NATO ke collective responsibility, collective defense, right? Everybody from around the NATO forces came and started searching for Al-Qaeda and in particular Bin Laden, right? Yeah, so Bin Laden, finally Obama got him. Bin Laden, right? That happened. Initially, most of the countries were empathetic. Even the Security Council did not give them the permission. Obviously, that they did not give the permission. I did not give the permission, or I think Russia did not vote or something, say neutral or something of that. I'm not very sure, but there was sympathy towards US. Because why there was a sympathy towards US? US had the right to respond. Why US had the right to respond? Because it was just war. Because what was happening there? It has a right to respond to this unprovoked attack on their sovereignty. Now what happened? This happened in, the attack happened when? The attack happened in 2001. When did US leave Afghanistan? No, but what is it? Just before Trump coming to power, Biden left. So, what was the rationality for them to stay for this 20 years? Around 20 years. What was the rationality? Yes, sustained war breaches हो रहा था वहाँ पर. ठीक है? You can't justify that. ठीक है? चलो. अच्छा, this is very important. Or in case of your ethics, right? You have to use these terms. Compliance with international law. Now, what is an international law? And now people will say that UN laws. अरे भाई, UN laws तो बहुत सारे laws हैं. You have to be categorical. Uphold Arms Trade Treaty. And this is one of the most violated treaty. Just go and search articles on Arms Trade Treaty. One of the most violated treaty. But this treaty is there. It's a legal provision that is there in the world. This is so. Ethical consideration is that you have to comply with this treaty, right? Third is giving humanitarian primacy, that is aid and diplomacy over arms. Okay? This is very prescriptive in nature, but ऐसे लिखना होगा ethics में. Again, humanitarian primacy, right? Ethical term. And now this something you can include in your ethics answer. ऐसे box में ना ऐसे लिखो success story. Write this kind of, give this kind of headings. Success story, African Union mediation in Ethiopia's Tigray conflict reduced civilian harms. Yet this is kind of a case study. Success story, case study are almost kind of same. So this is the way you can use case study. This is the way you can use success story to validate what? Validate this point, your argument. ठीक है? Public disclosure of arms deals to ensure oversight. OECD calls for ethical arms trade reporting. 2024 का report है. OECD asks that. Then long-term peace building to preserve one's authority. Now this is very important. Question is about what? Question is about major weapon industries of developed nations, right? Influencing continuation of number of wars. Now what happens if you are like, these are all like major weapon industries, developed nations, they're authoritative figures, they're authoritative countries, right? The moment you breach ethical standards, what will happen? That position, even though you are rich countries, your position of ethicality, you will lose that position of ethicality, right? So, long-term peace building to preserve one's authority. We will listen to you if you remain in this ethical path. Example will be Japan's post-war development aid to Cambodia. Japan occupied almost all of the southeast. And which was the most affected country? Like, which was the most affected country in under Japanese? China, right. China, which region? Huh? So, primarily the most affected region was Manchuria. So it was northwest China. ठीक है? चलो, अभी जल्दी करते हैं ना, because we have to cover more. जल्दी से cover करते हैं. हाँ, चलो ये कर लेते फटाफट. ग्लोबल वार्मिंग एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज. नाउ अच्छा, दिस इज अगेन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. रुको, दिस इज अगेन इंपॉर्टेंट. ध्यान से क्वेश्चन पढ़ना. ग्लोबल वार्मिंग एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज आर द आउटकम्स ऑफ ह्यूमन ग्रीड in the name of development, indicating the direction in which extinction of organisms, including human beings, is heading towards loss of life on Earth. Full stop. How do you put an end to this to protect life and bring equilibrium between the society and the environment? ठीक है? Like, very simple question. But here what is the trick? Or what is the most important thing people will miss? और जो यहाँ पर like the question they have mentioned human, हाँ? बताओ? What did I say in case of this kind of questions? जहाँ पर this application based questions, you have to know the issue, you have to know the values, you have to know those concerns. यहाँ पर कौन सा concern है? सबसे major concern क्या है? Human greed. And will you find human greed in any other paper, in first, second, third paper? No. They will be very technically sounding questions. But why did they give human greed over here? Now this is where your eyes should be. Your eyes should know which particular term to choose and to write on. So human greed, you have to mention about human greed. And what you, like, very simple, like, how many words? 15 to 20 words. Human greed, economic greed, social greed, political greed. And then you give a flow chart. This is a flow chart format. ठीक है? Overproduction, fossil fuel dependency, carbon emissions surge. ठीक है? तो if it was third paper में हम लोग क्या करते? Data देते. Not necessary here. Here value is important. Social greed, consumerism, lifestyle excess, resource depletion. Political greed, policy captures by lobbies, weak climate actions. ठीक है? This phenomenon happens where primarily, not in India, but in US, because they have political lobbies. ठीक है? Okay. So measures to protect life and restore equilibrium. Now here we can have two approaches. How do you put an end to this protect life and bring equilibrium between society and the environment? Now what people will do, they will divide this into two parts usually. कि put an end to this one. कहाँ गया? हाँ, so how do you put an end to this to protect life? They will give 3-4 points here, and then bring equilibrium between society and environment. They will give another 3-4 points here, but that again shows lack of maturity. That day we discussed, right? Theme is important. Theme is your measures to protect life and restore equilibrium. ठीक है? Here you give 4 or 5 points. That's enough. ठीक है? But important is this: human greed is important. You have to address human greed over here. ठीक है, चलो. Category 2 is code based question. Now code based question is as I told you. हाँ, मार्क्स नहीं कटेगा, बट लाइक मार्क्स तो लाइक इफ यू राइट द सेकंड सेक्शन, बट अगेन you will lose an opportunity to get good marks. Probably they might not deduct marks, but again they will give you an average of 4.5. But you will lose an opportunity to get around 5.5 and create an impression. Each and every answer is an impression of the next. Remember this. The well you answer right question 1, A, B, even if question number 2, A and C is mediocre, like you lift your marks because you have written 1 and B to a degree well. So don't lose this opportunity of writing good answers, because it's a reflection of what will happen, what will come next. ठीक है, चल.
We use one value and its dimensions or multiple values. Like इसमें human greed या dimensions करके political, social. Like हम multiple values दे सकते हैं, like
Human greed,
other than ethical values, obviously, like
जैसे examples.
so ये हो जाएगा say like corporate responsibility है, वो भी that value में आ सकती है.
Here we are addressing the phrase human greed. So the focus will be on human greed, right? And hence elaboration on human greed. What kind of greed are there? And in this particular, because this is climate change, so we have 3 kind of greed over there: social, political, and economic, right? Chalo. Acha, code-based question. As I've told you, कि there are many approaches, like 3-4 approaches, but today we'll limit ourselves to only one approach. And trust me, like this, even if you don't do the rest 2-3 approaches, if you do this particular approach, you will get. And the good thing about code-based question is this, that you can write within a very specific time, like 5.5 to 6 minutes. I usually advise students ki write your code-based questions later, right? The reason is that in code-based question, you don't have to decipher an entire question. You have to understand the code and then you have to write based on the formula. ठीक है, एकदम precise formula है. So first is what code-based question really means in ethics. The examiner wants to see how you interpret the essence, that is the theme of the code, and apply it to, this is very important. This is where you will get marks. Apply it to present day ethical governance, public and personal life. This part will have your attention. Essence of the quote will be interpreted differently by different, because everybody is different. They will different slightly alag from others. But whatever you interpret, that particular interpretation should apply to the present day ethical governance, public and personal. That is important. ठीक है? So a simple structure for code based ethics एकदम मतलब याद कर लेंगे. In the introduction, we will explain the line. The simplest of यहाँ पर jargons नहीं use करना है. Another thing about code-based questions, we will not explain code-based question with a quote. That is an aberration. Why? Code-based question means what? Code-based question means simple, that there is a thread wound around a spindle. Code-based question का मतलब कि we are unwoving this thread. And for unwoving this thread and explaining that code, we will not bring another quote. Okay. So first, introduction, 1-2 line explaining what the quote means in simplest terms. Second, the ethical dimension, the interpretation part, like in the sense, like what are the ethical dimension that particular quote is talking about. I'll show you with example, right? Identify the main values or principles reflected in the quote, substantiate with examples. Ajay, can you tell me the difference between values and principles? What is the difference between value and principle? These are very basic things. Like if you have studied or you are studying ethics, you should be knowing.
Values make things ethical, but principles that does not guarantee that the thing will be ethically right.
Okay.
Value is kind of outcome principle or like
नहीं, उल्टा है.
the basis that principle is.
So basic, like you are to a degree, right? Principle is the outcome of value. Principle is a concrete formula. Yes. Concrete formulaic representation of a value. Concrete formulaic representation of a value. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Right? we can say it as a principle. Like, what is the core value hidden in this quote? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Non-violence. Non-violence is a value. The moment we concretize it, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Now, it is obviously a principle, right? Because you are concretizing it. But we can see it from science perspective. We can see it from your life perspective. It also represents a value that what you do gets back to you. Something like that. So it is concretizing. So principle is concretization of a value. Okay, like mota moti, like you have to understand in that way. Okay. Now, got it? Essence. So first 1-2 line we will talk about this. In the simplest term we will explain it, and then we'll talk about the ethical dimension. And finally, this is the most important step: contemporary relevance, like how it applies to governance, to society, or leadership in this present context. This is the most important part of your quote. If you are mentioning till here and not giving this, then you will not get marks. Okay? And conclusion, you can have a like value laden or value added conclusion. Okay? So we'll take an example. So this is again a PYQ. Faith is of no avail. ध्यान से सुनना. Faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Faith and strength both are essentials to accomplish any great work. सरदार पटेल. ठीक है? Clear? Quote? Not clear? Simple quote है? ठीक है? Faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Faith and strength both are essential to accomplish any great work. So, what, like in a very simplest term, वो ये explanation मत बताओ. Like you give your own explanation. What does it mean?
सर ये बोलते हैं कि faith strength से आता है और faith और strength दोनों के होने से वो कोई great काम है.
नहीं friends, faith.
अगर strength नहीं रहेगा तो faith नहीं आएगा. But अगर दोनों रहेगा तो फिर कुछ पड़ेगा.
To a degree, you are correct.
Faith in the absence of strength is of no use, and faith with strength makes a great one.
हाँ, तो ये तो आप मतलब सरदार पटेल की बात कर रहे हो. मतलब what I'm trying to explain, not what is the essence of it. Yes.
I think we said in context of the national movement which was given for independence.
Yes.
That a large population has faith in particular that they want independence, but that comes from the strength. The strength in the form of values or people or in the form of politics.
So Ayush to a degree is correct over here. So we will not contextualize in that way because there will be many quotes where you can't contextualize, right? But if you can contextualize a quote based on an author, there is nothing like it. If you identify and contextualize, there is nothing like it. But Ayush is correct to a degree is that what he is saying that देखो this part.
अगर डायरेक्शन को डायरेक्शन कोई किसी को डायरेक्शन नहीं लिखा
बताओ.
सो लाइक
It is, look, code base is open to interpretation. So you can have any form of interpretation, but उसका application is important. So if you are interpreting it, you have to apply it. बताओ.
so like strength is like state and this will like law. So these two get together then to create. So like example of Akbar. So this is like a policy.
Which word policy? Akbar.
So like a policy sir.
अच्छा.
These two state and religion come together then so this
अच्छा.
and like great work happen. Historical.
So you are considering faith as religion and action as state. So that is not actually interpreting. That is drawing an analogy. There is a difference. Analogy is different. We will not draw analogy in code-based questions. ये नहीं करना है. I'll tell you, Anu. Look, for intellectual debate we can do, but in this case we will not do. I'll tell you the reason. The moment you draw an analogy, ना कि faith is like a religion and action is the domain of the state, then you are moving away from the explanation and the application wala part. You will move away from the author of the quote. The author of the quote is whom? The author of the quote is Sardar Patel, and there is a reason why that name is mentioned.
Examples अगर मैं point डाल सकते हैं उसको उस डायरेक्शन में नहीं
पॉइंट्स हाँ मतलब डाल सकते हो, बट आई वुड एडवाइज कि लाइक योर इंटरप्रिटेशन विल बी बिकॉज द पीपल हु आर मेंशन्ड हियर आर नोन टू यू एंड द कोट हियर इज fairly it's like it's very simple what they're saying, right? I'll give you the essence of it. So we'll break it down. We'll not draw an analogy of it.
So in a positive belief along with actions or like implementation. Like
Positive belief.
Like belief in ourselves plus action. Like for example, exam, like anything, even like governance के अंदर भी goal achieve करने के लिए they have to depend on particular system.
ठीक है. So like you're saying that one must not only have positive belief, one has to act upon it. Okay. हाँ.
But majority of questions में author का नाम दिया नहीं होता. उस
Quotation में दे रहा था. They give it. The author might not be known to you. ये हो सकता है. The author might not be known to you. ठीक है. But again, we will try to interpret the quotation, not draw analogy of it. Analogy का मतलब क्या है कि like we are relating faith with religion. We are relating strength with state. वो नहीं करना है. ठीक है. We will treat them as individual value and we'll break it down. ठीक है. So Ayush, और एक बार बताना. What was your point?
This statement is in the context of the freedom struggle.
It was in the context of freedom struggle. Okay.
And larger faith is that you should get the independence from the colonial power, and that is backed by the strength. Now, strength can be manifested in many forms. In the form of number of people or their strong belief regarding independence.
Belief, action, it can be any form.
Both get united.
Yes.
Then the world is great.
Good. So here, the essence of the quote is marriage between what? Action and faith. They have to go together. Until and unless they go together, then not much can be accomplished. Both are essential to accomplish any great work. Now another thing, faith is of no avail in the absence of strength. Now when we interpret, what happens when we write this quote based questions, we'll give more strength on this. Ajay, mujhe strength chahiye. But that is also not true. Faith is equally important. We have to talk about faith as well. ठीक है? चलो. So in this case, quote emphasizes the conviction alone is not enough. Is enough. One must also have the capacity to act. Right? Then here we will talk about the values. Value of determination plus competence. Balance between moral willpower and practical ability. ठीक है? So we can give this kind of like small arguments in our quote-based questions. So this will depend from quote to quote and approach to approach. I personally like this approach. Because like you're highlighting the core value here, right? And then you give examples. What are the examples? ISRO's Chandrayaan 3 success. What it had? Scientific confidence, which is again faith combined with technical skill. Matlab, like one has to act on it. Technical skill will improve when? Technical skill only will improve when you act. Winston Churchill during World War II. Firm conviction in defending democracy matched with military strategy and mobilization of national interest. Very famous quote. We will fight. You can give this quote. We will fight them on beaches. Sunyo? Have heard about it? Famous quote of Churchill or speech by Churchill. When there was this sustained attack by Germany, in order to revive the British strength, vigor and energy to fight the Nazi, if you see, the only country which stood against Nazi and successfully was Britain.
First day and last day of war,
they fought. They fought. Americans entered the siege later. France left their guns. Soviet 1941 they entered. Operation Barbarossa. The only country which stood and fought and successfully fought. France did not fight successfully because what happened? They had to relinquish territory. right? The only country which fought and successfully fought was Britain. And the reason was one person, which was Winston Churchill. There was a problem with Winston Churchill also. In 1943 Bengal famine, over 4.3 million people were dead. And that is official data. 4.3 million people were dead officially. Just imagine, in Bengal, official data back then in 1943 is 4.3 million. If it, imagine the unaccounted deaths. Total, how many people were killed in, Jews were killed in World War II? 6 million. And the world knows. How many people know about Bengal famine? We know. UPSC aspirants, yeah. Even people from Bengal don't know about Bengal famine. And this is not an agricultural famine or hydrological famine. This was a man-made famine. And man-made famine in this regard, deliberately ships were diverted. And when a letter was sent by the Viceroy to Winston Churchill, what did Winston Churchill do? So he wrote in that margin, then why don't he die? So if we are vilifying Nazism and Hitler, Winston Churchill is also a villainous character for whom? For us, for Indians, particularly Bengalis. But we cannot take away the fact that he was a personality, a leader of the free world who stood against Nazism, which represented hardcore fascism, right? And Hitler, stood against Hitler, right? Chalo. And again, Ayush, your point. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's integration of princely state, we can also give that point because that was the most difficult challenge. Why? In freedom movement, he had stalwarts, Mahatma Gandhi, Nehru. They were stalwarts, right? But integration, he was a one-man show. He used his belief that India can be integrated and his will of action, will to act, that led to what? Essential to accomplish any great work. Today, Bengal remains Bengal primarily because of Sardar Patel. Otherwise, yes. Otherwise, I would have been teaching in Bangladesh public service. Chalo. Now, this part, contemporary relevance, this is the most important part, right? Civil servants need both belief in public welfare and administrative skills to deliver it. Now, this I have just mentioned in a line, but you have to give more weightage here. Isko kaise weightage karna hai? I thought that I will go into, there is this particular thing, a formula where we can use, a formula that we can use how to relate quote and contemporary relevance, ठीक है? कुछ formula नहीं है, you see social, historical, ठीक है, and then present society में, ठीक है, then IR में, you see this and then you relate the quote and give examples, ठीक है? Then you end with a conclusion. When values are backed by strength, they transform ideas into achievements, the hallmark of effective leadership. Now, I am ending with leadership. Because primarily we are talking about Sardar Patel. We are talking about values faith translating into action, right? Like everybody has faith. I have faith, you have faith, everybody has faith. The moment it translates into action, then one becomes a leader. Sustained action. So like you will become a leader. You are all aspiring because you have faith that I can clear UPSC, I can do good to society. But this sustained faith with sustained action, like in this rainy season, you all came and have taken the class, right? This is action. It's not just faith. This is action that could have done online also, but you have come. This shows that the leadership that you have. ठीक है? हाँ? चलो. What definition? हाँ. So अभी एक ही discuss करेंगे. Definition is very simple. Definition-based questions. Now, one thing that you have to remember in definition-based question, and here your ethics preparation, and this is the reason I kept it for last. Ethics preparation will be important, that each and every term in your syllabus has to be done very well. And not only very well in the sense, just not definition. Definition-based का मतलब नहीं, I'll just remember accountability का definition. I will remember transparency का definition. No. You have to understand the concept holistically. So if I'm understanding accountability, if I'm understanding transparency, if I'm understanding virtue, I should know the length and breadth of that term. And definition-based question, and here in definition-based question, your marks vary. You might get like even 1.5. Application-based is like, again, you can, like the spectrum of marks is not high. So you read the question, you apply 4.5, 3.5, 4, you can get. But here you don't know the concept, you don't know the particular term, it will suffer to 1.5. So like here, the important thing is that you should know the core terms in your syllabus, and UPSC does not deviate too much from the syllabus. That you also have to know. Okay? They will not give you a very arbitrary term. Okay? So within the syllabus, they will give you. Okay? Chalo. So the question is, I forgot to write the question. Basically, I'll tell you the question. The question is this: that what is the difference between moral intuition and moral reasoning? They have asked to compare moral intuition and moral reasoning, right? So, in a definition-based question, our primary function will be reversed. In application-based questions, what was the more focus was there? To apply in various dimensions. In definition-based questions, it will be ulta. We have to focus on the terms, more focus on the terms. So, moral intuition. Okay? Moral intuition refers to immediate judgment about right wrong without deliberate analysis. Deliberation or deliberate analysis nahi ho raha hai. It is fast, it is emotional and shaped by, now this is important, upbringing. You will agree? Cultural modes. Cultural modes. Have you heard about this term modes in ethics? इसका मतलब क्या है? Modes या mores. इसका मतलब क्या है? Mores. These are cultural identity definition. ठीक है? Practices. It's come from a Latin word. ठीक है? And personal values. ठीक है? So and these are all established definition. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब बना लेते नहीं. Proper definition. So it is a fast emotional shaped by upbringing, cultural mores and personal values. ठीक है? Example: civil servant instinctively helping disaster victim without calculating resource constraint. This example could have been better. I could have given a real life example. अभी जल्दी में लिख रहा था. I could not get one. But the better, this is not a very good example. Good example would be, you can give a civil servant who did it. I'm forgetting the name of a civil servant. She's from Assam. And there was this news that in I think Kutch region or somewhere, no administration, Padal. So what she did was, she did not wait for car, or she did not wait for vehicle or transport. She made her car stop and she started working with knee-deep water, mud. It was a knee-deep mud that she traversed and reached the village. So, iska matlab kya hai? What inform or what communication? What are you communicating? You are communicating that if people cannot come to the administration has to come to the people, right? So this is the height of a moral character. This kind of things comes with moral intuition only. Okay, chalo. What is moral reasoning? Obviously, it's very understood from the term. It involves deliberate logical evaluation of an ethical issue. ठीक है, because moral है तो ethical issue होगा. ठीक है, it weighs principles. Talked about principles. ठीक है, consequences, facts. This is important. अच्छा, in this case I forgot to write. So here in moral intuition, consequences are not thought. Here very important, I did not write. Consequences has to be mentioned here. Consequences are not regarded here. Here consequences are very important. Consequences and facts before arriving to the judgment. ठीक है, it is slower and analytical and often guided by ethical theories and laws. मतलब ethical theories and laws, virtue ethics, deontological ethics, utilitarian ethics, human rights ethics, social justice ethics, whatever it is, right? Example: policy measures like Ayushman Bharat requires moral deliberation. Why? Because Ayushman Bharat means that I'm giving to a particular section and I'm omitting a particular section. It has to be based on rationality. ठीक है? So what do I do then? In application-based questions, I was always applying it to governance, public life, personal life. Here the focus is more on what? More on the concept. But I will not also lose an opportunity to mention how it can be applied to government context, right? So just a small bracket, box, and write a 30, 20, 25 words content. Effective public service often require balance, intuition for timely empathetic response plus reasoning for policy level. I'll read again. Effective public service often require a balance. Effective policy requires a balance. Intuition for timely empathetic response, disaster, ho gaya, major crises. So there you need empathetic intuitive ability, and that UPSC is asking you to build. Plus reasoning for policy level. When you are drafting a policy, you cannot be intuitive. There you have to have proper logic, facts, data with you. ठीक है? Mature ethical decision making harmonizes the heart's empathy with mind's logic for effective governance. ठीक है? Again, combining both, you have to come to effective governance. ठीक है?